Alright, so here we are. And we're going to do this a little bit differently than from our usual videos. And we're going to talk to you today about a game that I was 90% sure I was going to hate. As in, I didn't think I would ever like this thing. It's Archer, the board game. Believe it or not, I am a huge Archer fan. I haven't seen the last season or two, but I've been watching it for a long time. And so when I heard that they were doing an Archer board game, I got pretty excited, right? Well, once I read about what the game was, how it was a competitive points fest, it really made me not want to get this game ever. But I was at a convention recently, and a friend of mine was selling games for charity. And he had this one there for $10. And I'm like, well, $10 to help people out, plus it's the Archer game, I'm going to grab it, right? And I did. Now, in this game, you are going to play as some of the more, some of the well-known characters in the game, like Cyril. Who do we have next? Archer. You're going to get Krieger. You'll get Lana. Mallory. We got Pam. We got Ray. And Cheryl. Or Carol. One of them. And they each have special abilities. And they're going to have... At the very top, you'll see a number of dice. And that'll be important for when we talk about the checks, which we'll get into in a bit. And you'll pick any one of those characters. And this game can go up to 8 players, but I don't know that I'd recommend that. Just because there's a lot of back and forth in trying to make... What you're trying to do in this game, very simply, is you start off up here on 5 of upper hand, influence, whatever you want to call it. And the first person to 20 wins. Okay? But there's a lot of cards and a lot of things that say move you up or move your opponent back on these tracks. And that's never been my thing. That's why I hate Munchkin. I know a lot of people like Munchkin. I get it. But I hate it with an all-fiery passion just for that kind of mechanic. Will I still play Munchkin? Yeah. On occasion, I have to be in the mood, and if everybody really wants to play, then yeah, I'll do it. But it's not going to be my go-to. And the same thing for this. It's not something that... Well, we'll get there. Anyway, so after you set out that track, and you pick your characters, and each character is also going to come with their own deck. And each deck has... And what's weird is you don't have a hand of cards, which is fine, I don't mind that. You only draw cards on certain... when certain events happen. Speaking of events, that's another... Well, I'll get to that in a second. But like archers. And they could be something as simple as give yourself a boost to your ego. And go up on the upper hand track. Here you're picking a foe, an enemy, and they go down on the upper hand track, right? So you get the theme that each one of these cards does. Now, you don't see. That's what I get. That's the thing about this. There's no earning. There's no feeling of progression, or man, I'm really glad I got that thing, because it's just randomized. Because here's another one, Danger Zone, right? Okay, everybody loves Danger Zone, and it gives you 2 of the upper hand. In other words, it puts you 2 points ahead on that track. Why? It's just strange that way. So yeah, these cards don't have any kind of intrinsic value, and you just get them, when certain things happen. Now, when you're setting up the game, you put out that track, pick your characters, take their deck, and you also get these tokens. And these tokens, there's one blank that doesn't have anything written on it, and it just has the character picture. That's the one you use for the upper hand track. The rest of them have words written on them, the names of locations, because you also put out a certain number of locations, depending on the player count. think it's like 3 for a 2 to 4 player game. And each location is going to have a special ability that may or may not help you when you go out on missions or challenges, right? There's one location in there called Mallory's office. Okay? And Mallory's office has you using the event deck. And that's the only time that this deck comes into play, is when her office is out. Otherwise, this deck is completely useless. Could you always make sure that that location is out? Of course you could. Of course you could. But, you know, it may not be if you don't always guarantee it. So I just thought that was kind of weird. So alright, once you have your locations out, once you have the upper hand track and you've picked your characters, you get the 1 die that they give you. We'll get to that in a minute. The first thing you do is you pick a location in secret from your tokens based on the ones that are out, and that's saying which location you want to visit in the movement step, because there's 2 steps really, movement and mission. There's a cleanup, but I mean, come on. So you may be or maybe not trying to go to the same location as another character, because you might want an ability that's on a location. But if you go to the same location as another character, you roll a die for each character there. And if you roll a 5 or 6, you get to draw one of your cards. And we already looked at what those cards do. So sometimes you might want to go to the same spot as somebody else, sometimes you don't. The problem is you don't know where anybody's going to be because they pick everything in secret. Okay? And that's really all the movement phase is. The mission phase. You draw a number of challenges. So I don't know why they call it missions instead of challenges. But you draw a number of missions based on the number of players. Again, 2 to 4 players, there's 3 challenges that are brought out. Which means in a 4-player game, somebody may not get a challenge. And each challenge has a bit of information on it. The one that tells you the type of challenge. Okay, that's at the very top. And then it tells you how many victory points or upper hand you get for completing it. And in the bottom, it tells you the difficulty rating. And that's the total number that you have to roll on the dice. For instance, here's another one. Smarts. They have booze, guns, sex, and smarts. Okay, and that's where we come back to this. And this tells you how many dice you roll on those checks. Which again is weird that they only give you 1. So let's say you have the smarts out, okay? And Cyril decides he wants to go for that. Well, it's a difficulty of 8, so what he's going to do is he's going to take his 3 dice, roll it, and hope he gets an 8. Now, he does have special abilities, like when you complete a non-smarts challenge, draw a card from your deck, and he's able to play insults against any foe. Let's see, he also says during a challenge, draw a card from your deck for each 5 and 6 that you roll. Which I think that's everybody. Yeah, I think everybody has that. It's just the other ability that's different for him. So after everybody tries, because if you fail a challenge, it just stays out. But after everybody tries, then these things are cleaned up, discarded, and everybody goes back to the movement phase. And then you play that way until you get to 20. Somebody gets to 20, and they win. You don't need other people to play this. Like I said, it can go up to 8 players, but you don't need anybody because you can play this solo. Based on how many, whatever locations you put out. Let's say I was playing Archer, and the AI is going to be Lana. Well, all I'll do is I'll only pull the locations that are out. I'll shuffle them up, and after I've chosen one, I'll pick one for Lana. It's not that big a deal to do it that way. Plus, let me get her card here. There she goes. Her big thing is guns, by the way. So then on the challenges, if she's the mission leader, or, otherwise it's her turn to pick a challenge, all you do is you look for the one where it has the most dice for her. or the most advantage for her based on cards and things that she has, and then just use and then take that challenge. It's not that difficult. And if you're playing you versus one other AI person, well, then the foe is always you on those cards where you're going down on the upper hand track. And if it's not, then if you have multiple, anytime it says to go down, to move somebody down, just move down the person that's the furthest ahead. It's not hard. They could have easily written this into the book, but didn't. Now, honestly, I think it only took me maybe 5 minutes, if that, to figure out how to make this thing solo. It didn't take long at all. Alright, so, am I going to recommend this? Dang, that's a hard one. This is a difficult one to recommend. And I know, that's a hard one. Phrasing, boom, I know. Are we just not saying phrasing anymore? When I think of an Archer game, and this is one of the reasons why I would want the license, I think of them, yes, they have stuff where they're in the office and they do this intrigue, backstabbing kind of thing. But more than that, I think of it as them actually going out and having some kind of an adventure, some kind of a mission. And that's what these challenges are supposed to be, is those missions, but they feel so boring. It's just not that exciting for it. If they were staged, like you had to actually do different things to complete these challenges, then maybe it'd be better. But as it sits, because we play it as it lies, right? That they're just not that interesting. It's if you're just looking, and this game only lasts about a half hour or so, so if you're looking for something that you're going to be goofy with and laugh at the cards coming up, maybe get it. You know, it's cheap enough. You can probably get it pretty cheap. If I were making an Archer game, it would be, yes, there would be the office, like for resupplies and for gathering intel and so on, but it would be a flip book map adventure kind of thing. Like if you've ever heard of the game Jaws of the Lion, they do a map book really well, and it would be something similar to that, where all of the rules for the mission are written in that booklet right near the map, and everything you need to know is printed on those pages for those missions. Now if you wanted to do randomized maps, we'd have to do map tiles and everything else. That's a whole different story. But I think Archer deserves better. So, if you're okay with it being an extremely light, not a game you have to really think about, go for it, I guess. But me, it's going to sit here. I already bought it. It's going to just sit here. I'll probably throw it in a closet and forget that I have it. Maybe once in a while I'll pull it out and just, rip out a solo thing. If I'm in the mood for Archer. But other than that, that's where we sit with it. I'm not going to give it a number score because I don't care enough to do that. But that should tell you all you need to know about the game, is I just don't care enough about a number on it. It's very middle of the road kind of a game for me. If I never play it again, I don't care. If somebody wants to play it, okay. Whatever, like Munchkin, and that's one of the reasons I don't like it, is because of that back and forth thing, like in Munchkin. I'll play if everybody else wants to, but otherwise, no. I'm just gonna let it sit there and collect dust. All right, so that is unfortunately the Archer Danger Zone board game. I wish it were better. I wish it were an actual mission-based board game instead of what we got. But we play it as it is. Thanks for stopping in. I look forward to talking to you on the next one. What is the next one going to be? Not sure. I got a bunch of them that I want to put out, and I got some really cool stuff coming. I can't wait to show you. All right, we'll see you next time.